In this video, I'm going to give you those killer comebacks for narcissist insults. Yes, they love to insult you. If you're with a narcissist, whether it's covert, whether it's overt, whether it's who knows what kind, they love to insult you. That's their MO. And by the way, the one thing I want you to know is that if you're with a narcissist, they didn't attach themselves to you because you had so little value. No. They attach themselves to you because you have so much value. That's the whole little smoke and mirrors thing. That's the thing that you need to know, because they're not attaching themselves to the blue light special over there, the clearance rack thing. No, they want the shiny object. They want the thing that makes them look good. They want the thing that everybody else wants, but they want to devalue the thing that has lots of value, because then that gives them a better sense of power. The bigger you are, the more they can tamp you down. Then that makes them feel good. That makes them feel like big man on campus. Big whoop. That's what they're doing. That's what's going on there. That's the whole thing. It's just like the Wizard of Oz, that big old head, but it's really just that feeble old little thing and back behind the curtain. That's what's really happening. I'm going to give you some killer comebacks right now to narcissist insults, but I want you to remember, it's so important for you to know, the truth of the matter is that they are way more afraid of you than you are of them. And I just don't want you to know that, but it's true. When they say you are a piece of crap, or I was better off before I met you, or whatever it is that they're saying that is trying to make you feel bad about yourself, here's what I want you to do. In general, I want you to just start thinking of you're observing their behavior, almost as if you're just watching it. You're just looking at it. It's not coming on to you. You're like Teflon, maybe like a glass bubble around you. And it's not actually hitting you. It's literally maybe hitting this bubble and then coming down or something, or Teflon that's rolling off of you, or like water off a duck's back or something. But I want you to actually start as if you're just looking at the words and they just are going past you. Because the more you can start to depersonalize it and realize they're just words coming out of a person's mouth that don't have anything to do with you, the more you can start to not feel what's happening here. Because you have to understand that what they're saying has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. The way people treat other people is a direct reflection of the way they feel about themselves, good or bad. It doesn't have anything to do with you. So if somebody feels great about themselves, then they treat other people well. If somebody feels terrible about themselves, then they treat other people terribly. It's always about themselves. It's never about the other person, right? People who feel great about themselves don't go around treating other people poorly. It just doesn't make sense. The first thing I want you to remember to say is, I can't control how you feel about me. I can't control how you feel about me. You're welcome to feel however you'd like to feel, but I can't control that. Just like you can't control how the other 7 billion people on the planet feel. They're welcome to feel however they'd like to feel as well. It has nothing to do with you. It's not your business. So, they can feel however they want to feel. You can't control that. You can look at it, you can observe it, but it has nothing to do with you. So you can say that. I can't control how you feel about me. Pushes it back on them. That's number one. Number two is, I hear what you're saying, or I hear you. It's just literally an acknowledgement that they spoke. But when somebody says, I hear you, they feel acknowledged. All people want to feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. All people do. Everybody wants to know that they matter. My second book was Negotiate Like You Matter. And, matter is my acronym for how to negotiate. Negotiate like you matter, because the reason why I called that book that was because all people want to feel like they matter. What I talked about in that book was that if you don't have each person walking away with some value, then the negotiation won't work. And the reason why I said that was because everybody wants to feel like they matter in some way on this planet. But narcissists, and way, way, way more than that, because they don't have any internal sense of value. So if you say, I hear you to them, or I hear what you're saying, then you are just giving them some kind of salve. You're giving them some kind of recognition. It just brings that temperature down. And that's what you want to do. When they're insulting you, they're baiting you. And you have to recognize that. That's what they're doing. They're going fishing and they're trying to reel you in. And if you, take that bait, you're just basically getting a big hook in your mouth. You don't want to do that, because that becomes potential trial exhibits or witnesses, things like that. You do not want to do that. So you say, I hear you. The next one is, you can say, everything's going to be okay. Basically, if they're so upset or they're very angry, something like that, you just want to bring their temperature down, especially if they are extremely upset. If they're extremely upset or they're in a rage or something like that, you're not going to be able to have any kind of conversation with them anyway. You know how they are. They lack self-awareness. So you're not going to be able to get into any kind of substantive conversation with them anyway. And so if they're insulting you, it's almost like if something's pushing, if all you do is push back, you're just going to keep doing this. So if what you do is you pull the one side away, then they just go like that, right? So you just say, everything's okay. You're good. You're okay. Then they'd be like, what? It literally just throws them off kilter when you do something like that. The next one is, I agree with you, but be very careful with how you end the rest of that sentence. So you don't want to say, I agree with you that I'm a deadbeat dad, or I'm a horrible mother, or I'm terrible at work, or something like that. You want to have it be like, I agree that that's how you feel. I agree that we have different opinions. I agree that that is your opinion of me, or something like that. It kind of goes back to the same premise of, I hear you, but it's a different way of saying it. It's an even more of an acknowledgement, so that they hear words they want to hear, but you're not really agreeing to anything. It's kind of like the same thing as saying, I agree to disagree, but in a little bit of a different way. I agree that we're probably never going to agree. I agree that we both have the right to our own opinion. You can say something like that. That's a perfectly acceptable thing to say too. The next thing that you can say is, I understand. I understand that that's what you think. Another one you can say is, that's an interesting perspective. That's one of my favorite phrases of all time, when you're completely baffled at what somebody has to say, or completely don't agree with what they're having to say. Just say, that's an interesting perspective. You absolutely don't agree with what they have to say at all. That's an interesting perspective. That one almost makes me want to laugh out loud, because it's so politically correct, but so politically incorrect at the same time. The next one and the last one here is, let's aim to be respectful in our conversations. And if they can't be respectful in the conversations, then, you can just say, then we're not going to have conversations here. You can always get up and leave. So you can just say, it's time to go. All right, let's talk about the 8 questions that a narcissist just simply cannot answer. They act like they have all the answers to everything, don't they? They act like they're just like know-it-all. They think that they have all the answers for everything. They will be stumped. if you try to ask them these 8 questions. Number 1 is, what is your greatest fear? Because you know what? You know what they're going to say? I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm afraid of nothing. That's what they're going to say. Yeah, well, you know what? It's going to stump them because they don't want to be exposed. That's the thing. Their greatest fear is being exposed. And that's what I teach you how to do in my SLAY program, which is actually strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you, because that's the strategy, is how to potentially threaten to expose them. If you want to really get to start doing that, grab my free Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet, which is, you can get it at crushmydeal.com. It's a free 15-page e-booklet, and it's totally amazing. It's helped so many people just get started. So crushmydeal.com. But number 1 is, what is your greatest fear? Number 2 is, what are you most ashamed of? This is actually the thing. They have so much deep-seated shame. Narcissists actually have more shame than anyone. They have deep-seated hatred for themselves. The reason why they treat people so poorly is because they don't like themselves. The way people treat other people is directly related to the way they feel about themselves, good or bad. So if they're treating people well, it's because they feel good about themselves. If they treat people poorly, it's because they don't feel good about themselves. The reason why narcissists don't treat people well is because they don't feel good about themselves inside. What are you most ashamed of? They're not going to have that conversation. They have deep-seated shame, more shame than anybody. I mean, everybody has internal shame. All people do. But narcissists have more shame than anyone. So that's a question that they're really not going to want to answer. All right. That's number 2. Number 3 is, what do you think other people really think of you? They don't want to think about that, because you know that they're very, very easily slighted. Even just the hint of it. I always joke that narcissists hear tone like dogs hear whistles. Like, even if there's no tone, they hear tone. They're very, very, very easily slighted. If you ask them, what do other people really think of you? I mean, they might just say, oh, everybody loves me, or I don't really care what other people think of me. They might give you some crazy answer like that. Or they might say, everybody hates me, or, some victim answer. I don't know. But it's a question that's not going to sit well with them. I mean, because obviously everybody has this thing, where they think about, what do other people think of them? But for narcissists, it goes back to that deep-seated shame and that deep-seated hatred. They don't want to think about that question. So that's number 3. Number 4 is, do you have any close friends? Again, it brings out that deep-seated shame, because it exposes the fact that they don't really have any close friends. They usually don't have any friends at all. They might say, oh, this person's my friend, or that person's my friend. And it's usually not somebody who's their friend. I mean, it's usually somebody who's maybe an acquaintance, or somebody who is only around them for something, to use them, or that they are using them for some reason. You're around for their, some supply source or some trauma bonded reason or something. And then they're using you, and they're not even treating you very well. They don't really have any close friends. And so that, again, sort of exposes them. So that's number 4. Number 5 is, why do you think that you're better than other people? That kind of outs them, because obviously nobody wants to admit that they think that they're better than other people. Or a grandiose narcissist might sit there and go, well, I'm better than other people because of this, that, and the other thing. Or they might think it's funny that they think that they're better than other people. Or they might say, I'm smarter than this person because of this reason or that reason or whatever. But, it's not a comfortable conversation for most people, because they know they're supposed to be humble, or they're supposed to not be going around saying this. But covert narcissists really know they're not supposed to think that they're better than other people. So they don't want to say, oh, I'm better than this other person, even though they walk around acting like they're better than other people a lot of times. So that's, again, it's not necessarily a comfortable conversation for them. And it's a question that they simply cannot answer. So, we're working our way through 8 questions that a narcissist just simply cannot answer. They're not comfortable answering these questions. If you ask these questions of a normal person, they'd be like, I don't think I'm better than other people. That's a crazy question, or I have so many close friends. And, these are all my best friends, So these are questions that if you're not a narcissist, they're very easy to answer. But if you're a narcissist, they're very difficult to answer. Think about that. Number 7, what are your true feelings about yourself? These are very, very difficult questions for a narcissist to answer. What are your true feelings about yourself? Because narcissists are not self-aware at all. They don't think about things. They don't want to think about things. They don't want to think about themselves. They don't want to think about feelings. They don't want to have these conversations. And so true feelings of any kind are not their forte. Any kind of conversation around true feelings, that's not something they want to have. When you want to have a conversation around true feelings with people who are other real people, authentic people, it's the best, because that's when you can have true connections with people. That's when you can actually really deeply be authentic. And that's why you're the lucky one. And that's what I want you to put in the comments right now. I'm the lucky one. You are the lucky one. We're the lucky ones, because we can deeply connect with people. We can deeply have spiritual connections with people. And that's what's really the best thing. So I want you to put in the comments right now, I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one. You are the lucky one. That's what makes it, being an empathic person, being a true person, being a deeply connected person, being a deeply feeling person, a sensitive person, a self-aware person is actually the best feeling in the world. A true communicator is the best feeling in the world. And even though it makes you sensitive and it makes you more open and it makes you more vulnerable, it actually is so much better than being a person who is unable to be self-aware, unable to be connected, unable to reach people on a deep level. When you ask a narcissist, what are your true feelings about yourself? They won't be able to answer that question. And that's really sad. It's sad for them. And finally, the last question that a narcissist simply can't answer is, are you happy with who you are? They're not going to be able to answer that question because they're not happy with who they are. They simply will not be able to answer that question. Are you happy with who you are? The answer is no. What can you say to a narcissist to shut them down permanently? You have to understand something about narcissists in order to understand how to do this. Here's the myth. Most people think that narcissists just want to win. That myth is totally false. Many people come to me and they say, oh, they just want to win. Or maybe people think they just want money, or they want, those kinds of things. All of that is wrong. What narcissists want is narcissistic supply. Supply is anything that feeds their ego. But here's the thing. There are a couple of different levels of narcissistic supply. So there's what I refer to as diamond level supply, which is how they look to the world. It is the thing that they will protect and defend at any cost. And it can be compliments, adulation. It can also be, that prestige factor, things like that. But really, that's like the premium level of supply. But then there's that dark underbelly of narcissistic supply as well, which is denigrating you, controlling you, manipulating you, making you squirm, that sort of thing as well. And that's the thing that most people don't understand. That's the thing that most people forget about when it comes to narcissistic supply. The thing is that you have to know that that is there also. And so to shut them down permanently, you have to know that if you give them any level of anything, that you're still giving them supply. Any level of anything gives them supply. If you look their direction, it gives them supply. If you breathe their direction, it gives them supply. If you give them attention of any sort, it gives them supply. If you tell them to go F themselves, it gives them supply. If you are talking to their flying monkeys, it gives them supply. If you are locked in a battle with them, it gives them supply. If you defend yourself, it gives them supply. If you take their bait, it gives them supply. All of it, as long as you're still in that web with them, they're giving them supply. You're giving them supply. So you have to understand that mentality with them. And if you don't understand that mentality, then you're never going to understand how to shut them down permanently. You literally have to think of it as like this tourniquet and cutting off that blood source, cutting off, that limb. Because if you don't understand that, then you will continuously give them some kind of oxygen, some kind of food, some kind of lifeblood. And anything you give them will give them a reason to keep coming back. And that's why, even months later, years later, sometimes you'll see that ping in your inbox, that message that pops up. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? You see, sometimes they put in their Instagram bio a Spotify playlist that that there's a reference to you, because they want to see if they're going to get a rise out of you, if they're going to get some kind of attention, because they want to see, are you coming back? If you want to shut them down permanently, you have to understand that mentality. So short responses, the shortest you can go. Boundaries. You got to start off with boundaries. Boundaries like you've never seen before. I always say, step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. Starting off with boundaries, where you are absolutely drawing a line in the sand. Remember, they started off with that love bombing where they were conditioning you, and you've got to start conditioning them back and letting them know that there's a new game in town. What's going to happen when you start doing that? They're going to not like it, of course. They're like toddlers that are having a tantrum. They're going to start acting out. They're going to start getting louder, getting long, kicking more, screaming more. Pay attention, pay attention. What happens with toddlers who have tantrums? They think that they're going to get more attention. They think it's, the worse they get, you're going to give in. And sometimes people do. But if you don't, then they're always the worst right before they give up. So you've got to cut it off. Short responses, zero emotion. I always tell people, pretend like you're reporting the news. Never explain, justify, or overshare. Just the facts. Look at it as if you are observing the situation. Oh, hello. I'm now seeing you, that you are talking to me. Obviously you don't hold a microphone, but you kind of like pretend like you are. You're just observing the situation. Never defend yourself. When you defend yourself, you're actually giving the other person credence. You're actually giving life to their ridiculous arguments. You don't need to defend yourself. When they send long emails, long texts, look for the one thing that you need to respond to and just respond to that. And as to the rest of it, you can say, I deny what is in this email, everything that you just said. And I am responding to the one thing that I need to respond to, which is that, our child can be picked up on Wednesday at 4:00. And that's it. That's all you need to do. As far as, responding, you don't need to respond right away most of the time. You can take your time responding a lot of times, or you can take a breath before you even need to respond. Sometimes, even if you're standing in the same room, take a breath, take a pause. Sometimes you can just be silent for a moment or completely. Sometimes you don't even need to respond at all. Sometimes the things that they are saying are just so ridiculous that you don't even need to respond at all. Sometimes silence will just absolutely drive them crazy. And then they start to become unglued, which will beget something that they say, which will maybe become a great resource for you down the road, a great potential trial exhibit even, okay? When you send them over an offer and then they don't respond to your offer, do not say, oh, I'm going to send you over another offer. Don't negotiate against yourself. Let them counter. You can let them know this is the offer on the table. That's it. Don't allow them to push you into anything offline, by the way. Don't say, oh, we're meeting at Starbucks and, we're going to do this at the beginning of the deal, and let them bully you into agreements, sign things off on pieces of paper. And you're not going to do that sort of thing. Okay? Don't do that. A lot of times you can just respond with very brief things. You can just say, sure, I understand that's what you think. I agree that's what you think. I mean, I agree that's what you think. It's such a perfect response. I love that response. They hear I agree, and then you've agreed to nothing. I agree that that's your opinion. I agree you think that. I agree that that's where we are at this point. That's a perfect response. Or you can just say, sure, okay, that's wonderful for you. I understand that that's what you think. I hear you. A lot of times you can just say, I hear you. I hear you is just doesn't say really much of anything, but then they feel heard. It's great. Just a lot of times you can just think of who your avatar would be, the strongest, most powerful person, the elite version of yourself, and show up as that person. You can, fake it till you make it. Okay. And just be that person, especially when you are needing to feel confident at that time. Just show up, be that person. Be confident, because you are so ready. You're so ready, because I'm telling you, narcissists are way more afraid of you than you are of them. And the more together you are, the more unglued they become. They bank on you being the emotional one. So they want to pick at you. They want to get under your skin so that you become the emotional one and they sit there looking calm. So the more you cannot take that bait, the better it's going to be for you, because they will push the ante more and more and more. And the more you don't take it, the higher and higher and higher they're going to try to go. And you will see how it will actually become worse and worse and worse for them. All right. Communicate to them that there's a new game in town, and they will become more and more unglued. It will happen. The more you don't take that bait, the calmer you are. And hey, if you have to just be brief in your interactions with them, then that's what you have to do. But in your brief interactions with them, you do not let them see you sweat. Do not let them see you sweat. You just observe, You're as brief as possible. You are as strong as possible because they will respect that. They will be intimidated by that. And if you, when you go away from them, have to, that's when you scream into your pillow and, vomit in the shower or whatever it is that you do, fine. But when you're in that moment, when you're with them, you are as strong and confident as possible. How will they react when you know who they are? When you're starting to feel triggered, when you're starting to go, oh my God, I just want to get out of here. What's going to happen when you reject them? Well, the first thing they may try to do is they might try to like love bomb you right away. They might kind of go, oh, come on, we can work this out. They might turn on that charm first thing and get you to stay. That might be the first thing that they do, because that's worked for them in the past. Or they might try to future fake you and go, it'll be better, you'll see, we'll go to counseling, all of those things. That might be the first thing that they do. But if that doesn't work and they're starting to see the old stuff isn't working and they're really seeing that this is the path that's happening, then they're going to start to go, okay, I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling rejected. I'm going to start to now get bitter and angry and depressed. They're going to maybe try to get you to change your mind. But, they've got this narcissistic injury that's deep within them that happened when they were children. Something in their brain, in their the limbic system in their brain is going to get activated. That part of their brain is now going to get triggered, which will cause you to now have to deal with whatever that means. So when that part of their brain gets activated, which is basically a part of their brain that was, emotionally not matured, it didn't mature as fast as other parts of their brain. It was really, I want to say, arrested development. That it didn't develop the same way because what happened was, they were exposed to a lot of trauma. And during that period of time, when fight or flight was kicking in all the time, chemicals were being emitted in their brain and caused that part of their brain to constantly be, exposed to these chemicals. And so that part of their brain just didn't develop as much as it should have. And so when they get rejected, that limbic system, that part of their brain gets activated again, and they feel angry. They feel bitter. They want to lash out. They may become depressed. But really what happens is it's like the survival mechanism comes back out again, and they almost can't see anything about anyone. They're not thinking in a rational, reasonable way. And it causes them to act out in ways that is not, it's not good. They will try to sabotage you. They think in terms of black and white. And if you're not for them, then you are against them. And now you become public enemy number one. So now they have to go after you. So now you are on the other side of the fence. So they're going to have to take you down before you can take them down. And they want to make you look bad before you can make them look bad, because you know things about them and they don't trust anybody to begin with. So they're going to try to do everything to sabotage you. And, the thing that doesn't even make any sense is that they'll do what they have to do to take you down, even if it means sabotaging themselves. I've seen them even sabotage themselves to take other people down. And so what does that mean in real life? Well, it means using children as swords, it means saying things about people that aren't true, using the court system as a sword, lining up people against you, lying, writing emails that aren't true, texting things that aren't true, going after you at your work, all kinds of things, flooding you with texts, flooding you with emails, showing up at your house or office, potentially stalking you, angry, bitter, lashing out, depending on their level of emotional control. It just really is no telling of what they might do. Some have more emotional control than others, but when you reject a narcissist, that's what happens. And during the discard phase is when you start to see the birth of that smear campaign. But here's the thing. They are the worst right before they're ready to give up. They don't want to be exposed for who they really are. That's how you build your leverage, is figuring out how to potentially expose them, especially to supply that they don't want to be exposed to. I'm going to count from 5 to 1 because I want to give you the best one last. Oh, yes, I'm saving the best one for last. So, number 5, we're going to start with number 5. Number 5 is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You start with, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you don't understand. I'm sorry that we can't agree. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You just say, I'm sorry, because it's a disarming phrase. Now be careful, because remember that anything you put your hand to is a trial exhibit, and you don't want to be apologizing for things and then make it look like you're actually saying something, that you did something wrong. What you're doing is you're disarming. You're disarming. Remember, you're shutting down this narcissist. You're disarming the narcissist. You're reclaiming your control. Sometimes you can just say, I'm sorry that we don't seem to be on the same page. It seems that there's a misunderstanding here. I'm sorry that it seems that you're upset, and perhaps we need to continue this conversation another day. You can even say, I'm sorry, it seems that I maybe didn't explain this to you properly, and we can't continue this now. Whatever it is that you need to say, it's a disarming phrase. It's something that they're not going to say unless it's a manipulation, because everything they do is a manipulation. So number 5 is, I'm sorry. It's just a way to shut them down, disarm them. Number 5, I'm sorry. Number 4 is, we can resume this conversation when you're ready to respect me, because do not sit and have a conversation with anybody when they're being disrespectful to you. If they're screaming at you, if they're yelling at you, if they're being derogatory toward you, if they are saying things that are, not productive, you don't have to sit there and have a conversation. You're not getting anywhere with it anyway. So you can just say, we can resume this conversation when you're ready to be respectful. And then excuse yourself. Here's the one thing that I say all the time. There are certain things that are negotiable, and there are certain things that are not. Terms of contracts are negotiable. Your self-worth, not. Your self-respect, not. Ever. So you can always resume conversations when the person is ready to be respectful. And you don't have to yell, and you don't have to scream, and you don't even have to say it with emotion. You don't have to say, we can resume this when you're ready to be respectful. You don't have to be like that. Okay? You don't have to respond in kind. You just say, we can resume this conversation when you can be respectful. Thank you. And then nicely get up and walk away. Okay. And if they say, don't walk away from me, that's not respectful, blah, 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 whatever it is, just say, oh, that's not respectful. Thank you. And that's it. If you agree, put respect me in the comments right now. I want you to put that in the comments right now. Respect me, because I want you to remember that that's one of the most important things in any relationship, is to demand respect of yourself. And that's an okay thing. That's not only an okay thing, this should be a non-starter. Okay, it should be a non-starter. Number 3 is I agree. And again, this is something you got to be very careful with what you're doing, because remember, everything is a potential trial exhibit. So you can say things like, I agree with that, that's what you believe. I agree that that's what you think. I agree that we disagree. I agree that that's your perspective. In other words, you're not agreeing with anything. You're just agreeing that that's what they think, but just hearing the words, I agree, is just sort of like a salve for people. It's sort of like music to their ears. So when you say I agree, it's sort of like, okay, they hear I agree. So that's number 3. I agree. Number 4 or number 2, I'm working my way up. So whether it's number 4 or number 2, depending on how you're like looking at it, is no. Just no, because that will definitely shut them down, especially if they're used to you saying yes, especially if they're used to you going along to get along, because that happens a lot of times when you're in these relationships. I know, I've been there too, but then you end up regretting it. La, 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 I know how it is, right? That one is the next one. It's just no, especially if, you just really don't want to do that thing or whatever. Just say no. Just say no, like the old drug campaign. Just say no. All right, ready? You ready for that last one? Are you so ready to find out what that last one is? A good one. I told you it's a good one. This is the most important one. This will definitely shut down that narcissist. This is definitely going to help you reclaim that control. This is definitely going to help you disarm them. They hate this word in a lot of ways, actually. Whatever. Whatever. This is literally the one word that narcissists absolutely cannot stand. I do this because I have not only dealt with narcissists in my law practice and through what I do now all day, every day, and helping people. I have also dealt with them in my personal life, which is why I'm on this mission, which is why I devote my life to this, because I know the pain. I've been where you are. I have felt where the narcissist has had power over me. And I have been, where I've woken up in the middle of the night and felt powerless. You just feel like no one else really understands, especially if you're dealing with a covert narcissist. Those are the ones that everybody else just thinks that they are wonderful. It's almost doubly difficult because you almost feel like if you tell anybody about it, not only are you not going to get support, but you're feeling like everybody else is going to think that you're the one who's crazy, and nobody else is going to be supportive of you because everybody else thinks that they're so wonderful and they're actually going to be supportive of them and think that you're just being petty. So it's extremely, extremely isolating in a lot of ways. It's isolating in a lot of ways. And I know for me, I tried to get people to understand. I tried to get people to help me when I was dealing with it on a regular basis. And, you do feel you are powerless in many ways. And I can tell you from my personal story that the more you think about it, the more you ruminate over it, the more you allow that person that space in your head, the more you are in victim mode and not living your life, not in creation mode, not giving yourself the freedom to be who you are meant to be. And that's really the true crime of it all. So that's what I want to start with. You know, you were meant to be so much more. And I can tell you that when I was standing on a mountaintop with my daughter and my husband, and it was, you know, we were looking at the sunrise and we were on vacation, all I could think about was this narcissist. And that was my aha moment, as Oprah used to say, you know, like that was when I thought, no, you don't get to be here. I just realized in that moment that every moment I gave that person, I was allowing that person power over me. And so the person that walked up that mountain was not the same person who walked down that mountain, because I just realized I needed to stop giving that person power over me. And so I want to give you that same gift and give you 5 ways in this video to stop allowing narcissists to have power over you. So number one is to never explain, justify, or overshare. You know, you don't need to explain yourself to anyone. I know sometimes you feel like you need to, they make you feel like you need to. They write you these long emails, they write you these long texts, they put you on the defensive all the time. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to justify yourself to anyone. I always say, pretend like you're reporting the news. You're an adult. You don't need to share anything about anything if you don't want to. Even if you're married to the person, you don't need to explain. Just give the facts. If you didn't do anything wrong, then you don't need to explain. Just give the facts. Stand in your power. Know who you are. So that's number one. Number two is never let your self-worth depend on anyone's opinion of you. You can negotiate terms, you can negotiate issues, you can negotiate contracts, but you never negotiate your self-worth. You never negotiate your self-respect. Okay, so never allow what someone else thinks of you to be what your opinion is of yourself. And I know that's really, really hard, especially if you've been married to a person for a really long time. But when you say, he's making me feel bad, I want you to remember that no one can make you feel anything. No one can make you feel anything. And that is such an eye-opening thing. But no one can make you feel anything, you know, without your permission. And that's something that I have really tried to teach my own children. And it's something that you really can remember yourself. Almost imagine that there's like an invisible shield. No one can make you feel anything. So number 3 is start setting steel boundaries and keep them. You know, whether it's, you know, just starting with, I'm not having conversations with you unless you're going to be respectful of me. If you're raising your voice to me, if you are going to call me names, if you're going to treat me poorly, I'm not having conversations. You know, and you can start to say things like, I can see that you're upset. You know, I agree that we don't agree. And by the way, I have phrases for disarming narcissists that you can have for free. Go to disarmthenarc.com and grab them. They will be very, very helpful for you going forward. So just go to disarmthenarc.com and grab my free phrases for disarming narcissists. Okay, my gift to you. Go get them right now. Okay, disarmthenarc.com. Start setting steel boundaries and then keep them. Even if it's the smallest thing that, you are not going to be disrespected going forward. That's number 3. Number four, this is just an agreement that you're going to keep with yourself. All right. And that is, forget about getting them to acknowledge you, see your side, getting closure. Expect them to be the worst versions of themselves. Expect them to be narcissists. I had a client one time who called me up and said, can you believe he did this? And can you believe he did that? And can you believe he acted this way? And can you believe he acted this way? And I said, yes. What I can't believe is that you can't believe it. You've been telling me he's been acting like this for 3 years. And, she just started laughing at that point because she was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I have been saying this for 3 years, because she realized in that moment, it was like a reality check for both of us. She had been saying that for 3 years. When you expect them to act like narcissists, then you won't be surprised when they act like narcissists. You'll be surprised when they don't. Expect them to be their themselves, the regular versions of themselves. Then you won't be surprised when they are themselves. You'll be surprised when they act like polite, regular human beings. Okay? Forget about getting closure. Forget about getting them to acknowledge you. Forget about getting them to see your side. They're not going to acknowledge your accomplishments. They're not going to happen. It is so unsatisfying. I get that, especially when you've given, and given. I know. I've been there. I've been exactly where you are, especially if it's been a super one-sided relationship and you want so badly for them to go, I know you've given me everything, but it's not going to happen. Okay? Just move on. So I just want you to put that in the comments right now. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. It's time for you to move on and go on with the rest of your life. By the way, join my free private Facebook group, which is Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, because that will help you with support as well. Come and get the support and guidance that you need, because that will help you also. Lots of people in there supporting each other, and that will help you. So come and get the help and support that you need, and also get the free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com. Okay. And then finally, be offensive and not defensive. This is actually part of my SLAY methodology, which I teach in my program, my SLAY program. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you, which is what SLAY stands for. You is you being on the offensive, and you, which is your mindset. 100% of winning happens before you even walk in the room. If you don't believe you can win, no one can help you. You have to be offensive, not defensive. When you're defensive, then you're actually giving them credence. You're actually buying into their ridiculousness. Okay? Don't give them that. Don't give them that satisfaction. They don't have any justification. All right? Be offensive, not defensive. All right. So, yes, you cannot get a narcissist to actually change their personality, but you can get them to change how they will deal and interact with you. And I'm going to give you 6 ways to get them to change in how they deal and interact with you in this video. So stay tuned and watch all the way to the end so that you can see what I mean. What I mean is they've been conditioning you from the beginning. You have been dealing with them. They've been love bombing you. Now, this is whether you're in a romantic relationship, a business relationship, even a family relationship. Even if you've known them forever, they condition you. They expect you to act in a certain way. So what you have to do is condition them back. You have to let them know, hey, this ain't how it's going to go anymore. there's a new game in town. Things are changing, things are shifting. And the way that we've had a paradigm, the way things have gone before, ain't the way it's going to be anymore. So you're going to have to change. And so you're basically reconditioning them back. And the way I explain it, and the way I want you to understand this, is that it's the same as if you are dealing with a toddler. The same as if you're dealing with a 2-year-old who's having a tantrum. When 2-year-olds have tantrums and they're conditioning their parents, basically, the parents see the 2-year-old having a tantrum on the floor, right? And so for those of you who've had 2-year-olds, you know what I mean. What happens is the 2-year-old wants something. Let's say it's a bottle. And the 2-year-old is saying, I want that bottle. And the parents are going, nope, you don't get the bottle anymore. You have to use the sippy cup or whatever it is. The 2-year-old's like, I want the bottle. And so what happens is if the parents give in to that tantrum, then the next time the 2-year-old just goes, you know what? It worked last time. So next time I'm just going to scream louder. I'm just going to scream longer. I'm going to kick my heels. I'm going to flail my arms. I'm going to throw things. I'm going to become even more horrible. I'm going to make their lives miserable. I'm going to embarrass them in stores, whatever it is I need to do so that they will have to give in to me because I want that bottle. I want what I want right now. And then the parents go, oh my God, I can't take this. There's the bottle. And that's what's going on with narcissists. So until like those parents just go, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. The kid goes, you know what, apparently they're not giving in. I'm going to have to just give up on this. I'll just have to behave. I'll just have to, deal with it, take the sippy cup, and they finally just give up. But guess what? They're the worst right before they decide to give up. And that's what it is with narcissists as well. So you're basically, doing the same thing. You're reconditioning them. Do they change inherently? No, because they're not actually 2-year-olds. They're actually adults. But you are conditioning them to let them know there's a new game in town. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you these tips to let you know how to recondition them. Are you going to change them into loving people who have empathy, who now know how to care for people and become amazing human beings who no, you're not actually changing the narcissist spots, but you're changing them into how they will, treat you, respect you, or they're going to just get out of your life. All right. So here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you 6 tips. Got it? Number 1, you're going to understand narcissism. You are going to start really getting into, that's why you're watching this channel. That's why you're reading the books. That's why you are getting all the knowledge that you possibly can, because honestly, the more you understand, the more you dig in, the more you really start powerfully understanding everything you can about narcissism, the different types of narcissism, the traits of narcissism, the traits of people that they target, you start to realize, hey, this ain't me. This is them. I can't take this personally. This is something that's, happens to people when they were young. And you start to realize, wow, this is something that, took place. And by the way, as I say all the time, narcissists didn't attach themselves to you because you had so little value. They attached themselves to you because you had so much value. They liked sources of supply that have a lot of value. That's why they liked you in the first place, even though they gaslit you into believing you had no value. Understand narcissism. That's number 1. Number 2, set those boundaries. I always say, step one, don't run, set boundaries, obviously get away from them, but you're not running away. You're setting boundaries. The more you have fear, the more they smell it in the water. They're like sharks looking for that blood. And once they see that blood, they go for that. They go for that jugular. They know how to instill that in you. Set boundaries and stick to those boundaries. And then number 3 is don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid to confront them. Don't be afraid of them. They respect people who aren't afraid of them. That's the only type of person that they actually respect. You can't have fear. I started to allude to that earlier, but as soon as you have fear, they read that, and then that gives them supply. Your fear actually feeds that. They get off on that. They get a high on that. That keeps them around. That keeps them coming back. They enjoy that. Most people don't want people to be afraid of them. That doesn't give them joy. It gives them joy. You don't want that. And the more you can say, I'm not afraid of this person. They're just a small little, they're actually more afraid of you than you are of them. And the more you can see that, the more you can uncover that, the more you peel back those onion layers and see that, the more you will understand that. So no fear. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. No fear. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid to confront them. Don't be afraid to assert yourself, assert what's fair, assert what's best for you. Number 4 is related to that, and that is hold them accountable. Hold them accountable for their behavior. If you're in litigation and they don't do something that they're supposed to do, they don't provide discovery that they're supposed to provide, file a motion to compel, they violate a court order, file a motion, let the court know, make the court enforce that court order, ask for sanctions if you need to, if that's something that's available for that. Ask for attorney's fees if you can, whatever you can do it. Don't sit by and go, well, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to, hurt them. The more you do that, the more they get away with things, and you're not holding them accountable. And then they think that they are, still have some kind of power over you, some kind of control over you. And that's not okay. That's number 4. Number 5 is reward positive behavior. When they act the way you want them to, recognize that. Say, great job, or I'm glad you're using the parenting app like you're supposed to, or whatever it is that they're supposed to do. They do like their ego stroked, so if you fluff up their ego, it's a good thing. I know you don't want to do it, I know you don't enjoy those kinds of things, but, I always say fluff for favor, vomit later, because it helps you to ethically manipulate the manipulator, and it helps you to get some things that you want down the road. If, don't do it just to do it to get some things that you want, right? So reward positive behavior if it's going to help you. And then number 6 is the final thing, and that is to totally ignore when they are trying to bait you. This is so important. Probably the most important. This is something they totally get off on, is trying to bait you. And they will try to do this constantly in a myriad of different ways, probably infinite ways, thousands and thousands and thousands of ways. It will go on forever as long as you allow it to. I can't even name the number of different ways that they will continue to try to bait you. But, and depending on the type of narcissist you're dealing with, the way they bait is also infinite as well. But, they will constantly try to bait you. The more you can find yourself ignoring it, rising above, smiling through it, the better it will be for you, because, that gives them narcissistic supply. It also gives them things that they can use against you as well. The more you react to it, remember, everything you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit as well. So make sure that you don't give them any kind of things that they can use against you either, by the way. That doesn't help you at all. I know it's really hard. I know it's extremely difficult, especially, if you've been traumatized by them for years and years and years. Definitely get the help and support that you need. And right now, I'm about to give you 4 things you should never say to a narcissist. So make sure you watch till the end, because the best one is at the end. And I've seen it all. I've seen punched walls, all sorts of things. Let's go. Let's do it. The first one is, of course, you should never, ever, ever say you're a narcissist to a narcissist. I know you're so tempted. You are so tempted to do this because, you're learning about it, you're studying it, you've been reading about it, you're dealing with it now. You're going, oh my God, this is what this person is. You finally have figured it out. I mean, you've been dealing with this, you've been at the effect of this person maybe for years. And whether it's a business situation or a personal situation, a family situation, even if the person is your neighbor, once you start to figure it out and the light starts to shed on you, it is so amazing, because you start to go, oh my gosh, this is not me. This is not me. This is that person. And believe me, I've been there. I've been there not just as an attorney. I've been there as an attorney, and I've represented people against narcissists, and I've represented narcissists, not knowingly, at the beginning, but, they end up showing themselves to me. It's not like I flashed a neon sign, hey, I represent narcissists, come on in here. No, it didn't happen like that. But, they happen to end up coming through. But, I've been around the block enough times to know what a narcissist looks like. And I can tell you that when cloud starts to clear and you start to realize, oh my gosh, this is what I've been dealing with, and then I've dealt with them in my personal life too, where I've actually been targeted, and, where I couldn't sleep at night and my thoughts have been racing, and I literally was panicking and powerless and feeling paranoid. When you start to realize what it is that you've been dealing with, you just want to go, oh my God, that's what you are. It's not me. It's you. And you actually feel so relieved in a lot of ways. I mean, I remember the first book that I read on covert narcissism. I was on an airplane and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I was literally gasping out loud. It was almost embarrassing, but I was just so relieved that it wasn't me. And so you so desperately just want to say to the other person, you are a narcissist. That's what you are. It's you. But let me tell you, do not, as badly as you want to say that to the other person, do not, please stop yourself. Stop yourself. Do not say it, because the minute you do that, that other person is going to be like, it's you, you're the one, you're the narcissist. you're the manipulator, you are the bad person, they 100% are going to see it as you. They are never going to go, you know what? Now that you mention it, I think you're right. I think I might be. They're never, ever going to see themselves as that. Ever. Not once will they ever even remotely think of themselves as that person. So it's not getting you anywhere other than worse off. So don't bother. You should never, ever, ever call a narcissist a narcissist. That's number one. And especially if you're trying to negotiate with this person, if you actually want to get somewhere out of this person, you should actually be adulating them more, ethically manipulate the manipulator until you actually want to get somewhere, because you're going to spring leverage on them when you want to. You got to be strategic about this thing. You remember my SLAY methodology: strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. There's a strategy around this thing. Okay. You're going to slay. You're going to slay. Put slay in the comments right now. Slay. You are going to slay this. All right. Number 2, don't say you make me feel. You make me feel. You know why? Because you're giving them the power to make you feel a certain way. You know what? I've been saying this to my kids for years. Don't ever tell somebody you make me feel. Don't ever give anybody the power to make you feel some way. Eleanor Roosevelt had a saying about that. Nobody can make you feel any way without your permission. She had a saying that was something to that effect. I think I'm loosely quoting her, but it was to that effect. Don't ever say you make me feel. When you say you make me feel, you are in victim mode. Be in creation mode. And I remember that was one of the biggest mind shifts for me when I was deciding to come out of a business partnership with a narcissist. I realized that every time I was thinking about the narcissist, I was not in creation mode. I was in victim mode. And I was not allowing myself the space to be the best version of myself. And so every time I thought about that narcissist, I was like, I'm not thinking about this person anymore. I am going to go finish my book. I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to go do that thing. I am not thinking about this person anymore. That is not being the best version of myself. Don't say you make me feel. Number 3, don't say this to the narcissist. Don't say I need or anything to them where they perceive that you're asking anything from them, where they feel like you're being needy. Narcissists have to feel like everything is optional for them. They don't want you to need them. They don't want you to feel like you are needing them. That's why they hate it when you're sick. That's why they hate having to give gifts to you. That's why they hate anything around you taking anything from them, because they want you, the flow has to be toward them, not toward you. So if you say, I need, then immediately they are on edge. They don't want to have to do anything for you where they perceive need. So if you start sentences where they feel like you're needing them like that, then they are on alert. That's number 3. And the last one, the most important one here. This is the most important one. This is especially so true when you are negotiating with a narcissist. Don't push. Don't push. Don't push. Don't push. Don't say you're about to go down or any kind of threat like that. Don't threaten them directly, because if you threaten them directly, you are already going to be public enemy number 1, because they already see anybody who is not for them is directly against them. They see people in black and white. And if you are against them, then you are public enemy number one, and they've got to take you down before you can take them down. And they've got to come after you with all guns, and they've got to make sure that, scorched earth happens. And it's got to be messy and it's got to be bad. They just don't have the emotional regulation to make it any other way. They're not capable of emotionally regulating themselves. So if you say you're about to go down or you threaten them in any kind of way like that, their narcissistic injury is going to get triggered, and that narcissistic rage is going to come flying out, and it's just not going to be pretty, even if you don't mean it. Okay, so don't threaten them like that. You've got to be smarter than that. That's just going to be the worst thing that you could possibly do. You've got to be smarter than that. Okay, 5 weaknesses that every single narcissist has. And I want to reveal those to you because they don't want you to know about it. Narcissists are actually way more afraid of you than you are of them. That's the not so secret secret. They are so afraid that you're going to find this out. I always say it's like the Wizard of Oz, that it's like that scared little man behind the curtain, and they have this big huge thing that they're trying to put in front of everybody and make sure that everybody looks at that, but they're actually hiding this shriveled little thing. They don't want anybody to ever see that. And that is really what's going on. That's really what's going on. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 fears that they have that they don't ever want people to be revealing. They never want revealed. All right. So the number one is the fear of being challenged. Have you ever tried to challenge a narcissist in any way at all? They absolutely hate that. I mean, even if you play like a board game with them, they do not want to be challenged in any way, shape, or form. Even if it doesn't matter, there's no consequences. I know for myself, when I'm in a situation with a narcissist, unless it's a situation where I'm dealing with them and as a lawyer, if it's my personal life, I tend to just be like, whatever, dude, have it. Because who cares? Because they do not want to be challenged in any way. And I think it's kind of like a game, you know, because they take everything so personally, but they have this massive fear of being challenged any way, shape, or form. And they will take it to the end. That's number one. Number two is a fear of being slighted. And, this kind of goes hand in hand with that fear of being challenged, but this goes even further. This goes even deeper. I mean, this can even go down, into that whole road rage thing, where if somebody is like a malignant narcissist and they think that somebody has cut them off in traffic or has looked at them wrong, they will take this to the next level. And because they have this narcissistic injury, and if it's triggered, then that narcissistic rage comes flying out. And they think that once that happens, they're not thinking clearly. They are full on in that emotional state and survival mode. And it's, if I don't do something about it, then I won't survive, kind of a thing. I mean, it goes back to their childhood where they really feel like if they don't go on this offense, it's almost like an animalistic instinct within them. It makes them feel that if they don't lash out, that they will not survive in some way. I mean, it's deep seated within them, and it's an emotional state in their brain that makes them feel that they need to react so vehemently and so violently sometimes. So that fear of being slighted, and it could be a tone of your voice, it could be a look in your eye, it could be your body language. If they feel they're slighted in some way, they can react pretty strongly sometimes. So fear of being slighted. Number 3 is fear of being abandoned. And this is an interesting one, because they will oftentimes start discarding you. They will oftentimes say, you can leave anytime. I don't care. I don't want you. If it's a business or personal relationship, they could treat you so poorly, ghost you, not talk to you for days at a time. I find this whole thing so ironic, so paradoxical, because you think, why in the world would anyone want to stay in a relationship that is so toxic, so horrible, when somebody has treated you so badly, and yet they have this massive fear of being abandoned, where you don't want, why would you want to stay in a relationship like that? But then you end up wanting to often stay because you end up having these massive highs, these massive lows, and you become so trauma bonded to them a lot of times. I know, but you don't want to have fear. You don't want to have that fear of leaving. You want to end up becoming powerful against them. So no more fear. No more fear for you. You can do this. You can do this. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. I can do this. I can do this, because you can. You can turn this ship around. You can start to turn this power dynamic around. I can help you. If you need phrases for disarming narcissists, I have phrases to help you do that. Go to disarmthenarc.com and grab my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com, and use those for emails, for text messages, for talking to them, for communicating with them. It's a great place for you to start, disarmthenarc.com. And know that you don't need to have fear. All right. So, number 4 is fear of being alone. They hate being alone. Have you ever noticed that? They don't like to have their own thoughts, they want to have people around them all the time. Once that discard phase has happened, they have a new form of supply almost immediately, because that's where they get their supply from. Remember, they don't have any internal sense of value. So they have to get all of their value from external sources. And what does that mean? It's from other people generally. I mean, yeah, they can get it from those big houses or money or whatever, but none of that matters unless somebody's noticing it, right? So money is great, prestige is great, but somebody has to be seeing it to notice it. So they've got to have people around them. So fear of being alone is a big, big part of that. So number 4 is fear of being alone. Number 5 is the biggie, the big, massive one. And this is where, when you go to negotiate with a narcissist, this is how you create leverage. This is it. And in my Slay program, this is what I teach. And that is that they have a massive fear of being alone. Massive fear of being alone, fear of being exposed, fear of being exposed for who they are. This is what you definitely can build your leverage on. Massive fear of being exposed. Their top shelf supply is how they look to the world. And that's how you build your leverage. Remember, SLAY stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and stay 2 steps ahead of them and focus on you and you being on the offensive, and then your mindset. And so L is leverage. How do you build that leverage? It is around how they look to the world and you not being jerked around anymore, right? So how do you do that? You find a form of supply that's more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from jerking you around, and then threaten that form of supply. And the way that you can build that is figuring out what it is that is their fear of being exposed. Remember, they don't want to be exposed. So that's their biggest fear. Number 5, fear of being exposed. All right, let's talk about the 5 things that narcissists worry about. And you're going to want to watch all the way till the end because I'm saving the best for last, of course. Number 1, the first thing that narcissists worry about is they worry about being forgotten. Narcissists really do not want to be forgotten because, of course, they want to feel super special. That's one of the things that is really, really important to narcissists. It's actually one of the things that is highlighted in the spectrum of narcissistic personality disorder. If you look at the DSM-5, which is how psychologists and psychiatrists actually look to see if somebody has narcissistic personality disorder, they want to feel like they're special. So being forgotten is one of the most things that they worry about. Is one of the worst things that could possibly happen to them. They need to be the center of attention, and they fear that if they're not, it means that they kind of disappear because they have no internal sense of value. They get all of their sense of value from external sources. So that's why they're constantly doing things to try to be the center of attention. You know, if they're an overt narcissist, they do things to be boastful, they brag a lot, you know, they overtly try to be the center of attention. If they're more of a covert narcissist, they act like the victim, they try to do things that make you feel guilty, that sort of thing. But either way, they're always trying to be the center of attention, even if it makes themselves look bad. Being forgotten is absolutely one of the top things that they worry about. Number 2 is losing control. They absolutely hate losing control. They must be in control of everything at all times. And how they go about that is, you know, they do that in different ways, depending on whether they're an overt narcissist or a covert narcissist. They definitely want to be in control at all times. This is why they are manipulative. This is why, you know, sometimes they're passive aggressive. Sometimes they use gaslighting. You know, they have all these different ways of trying to be in control at all times. They have their little kingdoms or queendoms, depending on what type of, you know, if they're male or female or whatever. But this need for control is constant. And this is why they're constantly on this hunt for narcissistic supply. Worrying about losing control is something that keeps them up at night, quite frankly. And they, you know, they're super insecure. So, you know, they have trust issues, all of these things. So obviously, losing control is a big, big problem for them. Number 3 is being rejected. They absolutely are very, very concerned about whether or not somebody is, you know, for them or against them. And, you know, for them, everything is black and white. So you are either for them or you're against them. And being slighted is, you know, even if there's a hint of it, a tone of it. I always say that narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles. Even if there's no tone, they hear tone. I mean, they're highly, highly sensitive to being rejected. It really comes down to the fact that, you know, they're operating on an immature, emotionally limbic brain, frankly. And so they need to be loved and accepted by everybody. And extremely sensitive to the fact that they're not, even if they say, I don't care if these people like me. I mean, they'll say that. They say that all the time. But the fact of the matter is that they very much do. And they'll say, I feel whole. I feel complete. I don't care if anybody loves me. But they are extremely, extremely sensitive to this. And this fear of being rejected leads them to being actually very clingy and needy in relationships. Even if they're rejecting you, they'll reject you, but then pull you back, reject you, then pull you back. It's a very hot and cold type of relationship, but that is how they are. They're extremely nervous about being rejected. That is the next one. The next one is they're extremely worried about being alone. They hate being alone. They need people around because that's where they get their narcissistic supply. They get supply from people. So they need people to be giving them that supply. That's where they get the feeding of their ego, is from those sources. So they need that. It's either going to be in the form of what I call diamond level supply, which is adulation or people giving them that prestige, that sort of thing, or what I call coal level supply, which is controlling people, debasing people, treating people poorly, that sort of thing. But they need to be surrounded by people at all times. And this fear of being alone can lead them to being very codependent on people. And when people try to leave them, they go crazy, stalking sometimes, trying to make you feel guilty. I mean, even after they've treated you so poorly, they go crazy if you try to leave them. It's so crazy, but that's what happens. I mean, they hate being alone. So that's one of their major fears, one of their major worries as well. So that's number 4. And if you've seen any of these so far, give me a totally in the comments, right? Totally you've seen this. I know you have. Now I have led myself up to number 5, which is the big one, the most important one. Absolutely. And when you are negotiating with a narcissist, trying to get something out of them, trying to create leverage, this is the biggie. This is the most important one. This is the one when you are developing any kind of a strategy, which is all part of my SLAY methodology, by the way. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. This is where you're going to build your leverage. Number 5 is they worry about being exposed. This is the most important one, the thing they worry about the absolute most. They are very worried about being exposed. They don't want anyone to see their true selves. They don't want to be exposed to anyone, including their partners. They don't want to even show their true selves to their spouses, to anyone, because they don't want anyone, they don't trust anyone. They don't want anyone to know who they are. This fear of exposure leads them to live lives of lies and deception and manipulation. And, they'll tell everyone else, you're not trustworthy and you're a liar. They call everybody else these names. But the truth of the matter is, it's they themselves that are not trustworthy. It's they themselves who are the liars. It's they themselves who are projecting and deflecting, who are doing all of the things that they are accusing other people of because they are afraid, deathly afraid of being exposed. And so this is the area that you can actually build leverage around.